Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Chess League 2025. It's the fourth day and once again we have three matches to look at. I don't want to dive deep into this first matchup against Alpine versus American Gambits because basically on the first three boards the game ended in a draw, and then Nino Botsashvili defeated Dore Inchach, and then Vladimir Murzin lost to Leon Lukmindonka. And by the effort of those two players, Pipers went on to win the match. The second match was more interesting. Triveni Continental Kings, who led by Alireza Firouzja, played against Ganges Grandmasters led by Viswanathan Anand, who beat world champion Gukesh yesterday. So let's take a look, because there were a lot of interesting results and just absolutely wild ending. So first match, Alireza Firouzja versus Viswanathan Anand on the first board. Alireza, who won 3 out of 3 first games. I mean, you know, it just, the more he wins, the more it feels like, why on earth he is not in the candidates? I mean, he should be there. He deserves to be there. He's one of the most, I mean, one of the best juniors on the planet, and he is not there. Despite, let's say, someone, I mean, all players who are in the candidates right now deserve their spots, but I mean, not seeing Alireza in Cyprus next year definitely, is a bit sad. So, Alireza, Knight C3, Vienna game. And of course, I mean, on this level, you kind of don't see this a lot, and A3, I mean, it's just some sort of trolling at this point. Bishop C5, Knight goes to F3, G6, Pawn goes to G4, takes. Rook E8, Knight goes to B3, attacking the bishop. You might ask why not Knight E4 doesn't work, because Knight E4, Rook E4, Knight C5, and we're exploiting the pin on D file. So Bishop has to go back, and now Bishop G5 pinning the Knight. So generally here the plan for Black, I would say, is to play H6 and try to, at some point, even G5 might follow, and I mean, generally you're not really scared of anything on the king side as Black. H6 is played, Bishop H4, G5 exactly, and now Knight D4 takes the pawn, and Alireza is down a pawn. So here H6 G5 was good just because in the end you take the pawn, and yeah, now you shouldn't worry. I mean, no H4 is coming anytime soon. Like, probably have to castle and then try to maybe Bishop D3, Queen H5, try to create counterplay against the king. But, I mean, Black should be on time to play something like Knight D7, Knight F8, at some point maybe Rook E6 to protect the pawn. I mean, Bishop is still active, so, Vichy, I think, felt comfortable. Knight C6, Knight goes to D2, Rook E8, Knight C4, attacking the bishop. So, the plan for Alireza was to take this bishop and then try to maybe play f4 and open f-file. Then bishop goes this way, queen goes this way, and then he tries to attack. So bishop g4, c3, and now bishop went back. So now it's, becomes interesting, because bishop on g7 protects, and h6, d5 is a very good move with the d4 idea. In some lines, yes, queen f3. So now the point is, if d takes f3, Queen f7 and Queen e8, white wins the game. So Bishop e6 has to be played first, Knight f5, Bishop f5, Queen f5, and once again the threat against f7 pawn is real. Queen f6, Queen goes to b5, takes, Queen c3, and now Queen b7. Attacking this pawn, Black can now take the Rook on a1 potentially, Queen c7, Rook e7, takes, and now Bishop b8. So, and Alireza's position is suddenly becomes better. So if Queen a1, some opposite trade, I mean basically Bishop a7, Bishop c5, you have a plus pawn, white wins the game. So that's not the best. So Rook b1, Queen goes to a3, and now Rook d1. The idea for Alireza is now to play Rook d8, play Bishop f7 afterwards, and use the vulnerability of the skin. Knight b8 takes first on f7, intermezzo, little intermezzo, because now King f8, Rook d8. But after King h7, now Alireza can finally take Bishop d4. The idea is Rook d4, Queen a1, and Black wins the game. So Rook b7, Queen c5, Bishop h5 check, King g8, and now King h1. Bishop f2 is not possible due to Rook d8, so Black had to push a5, a4, Rook d7, Bishop g7, Rook d8, King h7, Bishop f3, Queen f5, blocking e4 check, and now, I mean, Alireza just converted pretty smoothly. Queen c1, King g1, and rook d1 back, and rook a4 finally takes the pawn, and Vishy had nothing. No ideas here, and resigned. And Alireza is 4 out of 4. His performance is 35-26 after this game. What the hell is going on? 35-26. I mean, it is rapid, and he's playing against best players on the planet, and you know, he still manages to beat them. I don't know who can stop him. I mean, what an effort by Alireza, and he keeps leading his team to the victory. I mean, you know, they look like huge favorites to win the whole event, because the way they're playing the whole team is just insane. On the second board, oh no, that's not the second board. The second board, Wei Yi versus Vincent Keymer. So, let me actually take a look. So yes, Wei Yi and then Vidit Gujrathi on the third board. So, e4, c6, d4, d5. We have, you know, the most aggressive advanced variation against Kraken. Knight d2. h4 is, I guess, the main move. I mean, bishop 2, I have never seen this. Knight d2, I have rarely seen it played. At least, let's say on my level, I don't see played this often. But yeah, the idea of knight d2 is knight b3 is always there, just to make sure, you know, to make some trouble when to play against c5 push. Knight d7, knight f3, king goes to c7, bishop e2, c5, c3, knight d2, knight goes back to d2. b5, knight h4, bishop g6, now rook, now castle, and the idea is, of course, to try and advance on the king side. Vincent, who is playing with the Ganges Grandmasters in Vicious team, he is the other player who didn't manage to qualify for the candidates, which is again frustrating to see, because he's number 4 in the world as of recent rating list. So yes, I mean, we will miss some of the best chess players in these candidates and upcoming candidates. And f4 was played. Computer says g3, but again, I would play probably f4 as well. So, the point knight g6 takes. Computer says, let's say knight f3 or queen e1 is better. For me, f4 looks logical. You want to take up some space. p3, a4, takes, and now queen goes to c2. The idea is, I mean, still remains the same. g4, f5. So now, this knight on h6 doesn't really do anything. I mean, it cannot go anywhere. g5 is never an option due to, let's say in the following case, g5 might be an option, but there is f5 all the time, so black gotta be extremely careful. Rook f3, queen c6, knight f1, king d7, and now look, this is what happens when the center is closed and there is no way to break through. But I mean, at some point f5 will be coming. f5, rook b1, rook b8, bishop d1, king c7, rook g3, and now g5. And after f takes g5, there is f4, which was played in the game. G takes h6. Brilliant rook sacrifice. I mean, Levy would probably be happy. Rook j8, queen g6, king d7. I mean, this one is insanely strong. Knight g2. The idea is, of course, to bring bishop to h6 and protect this one. So, knight a4 was played. Rook b8, bishop a4, queen a4. And now knight e3, defending from d1. So g8 promotion would actually lose the game immediately due to queen d1 and checkmate. So you still gotta be careful. So knight f3 first, a rook goes to j8, now king f7 attacking both these pieces, and after queen 8, queen e6, Wei Yi ended up winning as Vincent resigned. So basically knight d5 is coming, then this falls, then eventually this falls. Why just have too many pawns? Rook g7, you might also think of bishop a3 and then knight d5 check. I mean, there are just too many threats at this point. And the third game, I mean, that was the wildest one. You'll see what happened. I mean, it is just insane. So, we have King's Indian on the board. Castle, e5, h6, knight c6, knight goes back to e7, a5. I don't want to dive deep into theory because I'm not familiar with it. I mean, I know some plans in King's Indian. It's usually extremely sharp. c5, rook goes to a3, f5, takes, knight b5, rook a6, bishop b2, knight f6, bishop d3, knight g6, bishop c2, king h7, knight f1. And this is where Vidit got a very comfortable advantage. f3, knight f5, bishop f5 takes, and now takes was a mistake due to f4. So, according to computer, after knight g3, you kind of keep pressure on e4 pawn, and if ever takes on after there is knight f5 ideas, bishop f5 ideas, so you know it would have been good. But after takes f4, you know, suddenly, I mean, black have somewhat an active center. There are not a lot of ideas for white to, let's say, even reroute this rook to h3 due to bishop on c8, so becomes a little bit complicated to play with white. So rook g8, bishop goes to f3, knight h7, h5 idea, bishop d7, queen d5, bishop takes, c takes b5, and rook d6 attacking the queen. King b7, bishop f8, queen f7, knight goes to g5. Now the idea is obviously to potentially put pressure on f3 bishop as well. So queen goes to h5, c4. Now there are some discover attacks, let's say with rook d3, rook I don't know, rook f6, rook g6. Rook g6 I think is a threat, because then you want to take this way and then take on g2, and rook is under attack. So king h1 was played, king goes to b6, rook a2, c3, pawn pushes, king d4, and we're about to get an interesting moment. So rook d1 is played, and the position becomes absolutely winning for Javokhir. He should play queen c4, and he did it. This move is on the board, so rook a1 is played, now rook d1, and knight e4. The idea of knight e2, forking the rook, king f5 check, bishop g7, queen f4, rook d8. And yeah, now this is where things got wild. So after queen c4 and rook a1, apparently knight e4 was the best option. And let's see, if queen e5, there was bishop g7, queen f4, rook f8, and knight f2 is coming the next move with the rook win, basically. And then you just push the pawn eventually and win the game. So instead we see this position where it's not as clear, and now once again you see it's now around equal. So c2, pawn push, rook c1, knight f2, a blunder, rook e3, not queen e3. Because after queen e3, I think you're basically lost, because you can make this, then you can play bishop f5, and you will eventually take the pawn, and you still have two passed pawns on the queen side. Bishop f5, bishop d4, queen f4, threatening to take on h6, king g7, h3, bishop e5, a lot of mistakes happen, king f8, bishop c2, queen c2. The idea is now rook c2, rook e1, checkmate, so gotta be careful. Rook f1, king s7, queen h4, king d7, queen h6, and after queen f4, I mean, it's probably the miss of the year, because here, checkmate on 2, he has 5 seconds on the clock, rook f7 check, king only can go to the last rank, and queen f8 is a checkmate. I'm not sure how you can miss it, but again, you're under a lot of pressure. So, and position becomes equal after queen h5. You still have bishop, rook, and queen. So there's still potential to lose the game. So now for pawns, I mean, still not clear, but I mean, most likely to be a draw if you defend the right way. But again, I mean, with such a low time, I mean, you might easily lose the game. And we have the following endgame. Let's see what happened. Bishop e5, and soon Vidit got to losing position, rook c7, and the position is absolutely lost. Bishop a5, trying to go this way, rook g4. The idea is, of course, if king a8, rook g8. Now this square is blocked, right? So rook has to move. Bishop this way, king a8, rook g8, check, mate. I mean, absolutely wild ending to this match. And Javokhir, I mean, they still lost the match, but you know, he just showed some crazy resilience and not let his opponent checkmate him. I mean, it's just insane. And we move on to the third match, where the team led by the world champ is still having a lot of problems, and it's the only team which hasn't won a single match in this event. So d4, Arjun playing against Wesley So. That is an interesting one. We have classical Queen's Gambit declined positions, just 6, knight h5, bishop e7, trades, knight g7, bishop f5. The position is, it's equal. Knight c5, bishop c4, rook d8. There is an isolated pawn on d4, which Wesley is trying to use by playing rook d8, maybe placing knight d5, maybe at some point playing b6, knight f6, and try to take it. a5, king b3, b6, takes, knight f5, coming from this side of the board, knight d5, king goes back, king g7, rook e5, knight goes to b4, and you know, after rook f5, apparently white gets a match, but now it's around equal. Knight d5 was a blunder because there was bishop d5, and if rook d5 there was g4. Very, very complicated. And then basically rook, I think rook comes to e7. That's the idea. Takes g4. That's exactly what played, and rook e7. And guess what? Arjun is getting a winning position. He takes king g2. But I can't say it's super winning just because, I mean, yes, I mean there is a queen on the board, 4 white pieces, but yeah, the pawn structure is horrible. That is the only point, and crucial e5 square is also extremely weak. So queen f4, rook e7, knight e5. But still, I mean, tough to say white so winning. Knight c6, rook d7. I mean, if you are not careful enough, you might still lose the game. Knight f7, queen f3, knight e5, knight b3, and now pass pawn as well. Knight d3, rook e5, g5, and suddenly it turns out that, okay, I mean, Wesley doesn't want to lose. He plays g5, he's used to play knight f4, knight g5 cannot be taken due to rook e3, so very complicated position. c4, rook b7, rook b2, king g6, and once again it becomes winning, and rook e4. And guess what? Now rook and knight for the queen. Like, what might go wrong? Rook b3, knight f4, she takes h4, g5 is a blunder. King now goes to g4, and Arjun loses on time. That's unbelievable. I'm not sure what is going on with this team, but they ended up losing with 2 points. They're playing with white pieces. 218. Oh my god. 218. I mean, I guess, yeah, they had to draw us, and then black pieces won on 4 boards. 4 boards. I mean, they're absolutely dead lost. As you might see, 2 teams led by Alireza and Maxim Shelgraf have 9 points. Then there are 3 teams: Alpine led by PBG Alaskan Grandmaster led by Vichy, and American Game is led by Hikaru, 6 points. And then dead last, the team led by the current world chess champion, I mean, he has great players on his team, but it just happens to be some sort of tilt at this moment. Like, they can't win a match, you know. There are sometimes good football teams which are very strong, but there's just some psychological things going on, and they can't really break through. But hopefully they will bounce back, because they gotta get this first win in the event. But from how they're playing right now, I mean, 218 in the last round, we can take a look how they ended up playing games. Let us, okay, it doesn't let me, okay, so match day 3, let's take a look at how their match ended. 12-3, I mean, they're losing absolutely insanely bad. Then they lost 3-15 with white pieces. I mean, they're having problems with white, so if there was some betting competitions, and if Alaskan Knights are playing with white, I mean, bet against them, you know. And of course, in the first round, they lost against American Gambits. That was kind of close match, 5-8. But I mean, from how the things are going, it doesn't look like, you know, they're having any momentum. 2 draws on the first and third board, and it's only gonna get probably, like, hopefully it's gonna get better for them, but right now they just play horrible chess. Horrible. Mukesh, Arjun, Linier, Katerina Lagno, Sarah Hadem, and Daniel Darda. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with this team, but they're on some sort of tilt. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed. Let me know any questions or feedback you might have, and I'll see you tomorrow after match day number 5. Bye bye.